Hello and welcome to another episode of Belongs to the Shadows podcast. I'm your creepy host, Jaime Bennett. If you are new here, welcome. We talk about anything that is haunted history, creepy, spooky, paranormal, supernatural, or just plain weird, unexplainable. And if you're not new here, welcome again. Please like and subscribe, people. Please. I would very much appreciate it. It supports my channel and it helps me to be able to continue doing this show for you. And I love doing this show. I have my PayPal account listed below, and as usual, tips are not expected, but they are appreciated. Any support that I can get for the channel helps me to get new equipment, to update my equipment, to continue to do what I love to do, and that's explore haunted history. Also, I am going to be adopting a cat from the local animal shelter. I fully believe and am passionate about adopting rescue animals. I have quite a few. I have a dog who's a rescue pet, and I have a cat that is a rescue pet. So I really, really appreciate getting to rescue animals and giving animals that are stuck in the shelter a home. They need a home, they need love, and they need appreciated. So any tips that I get or any support that I get on this channel may go for that cause as well. So anything that you can do supports a good cause. Or if you just want to listen to my voice and listen to me mispronounce things as usual, then feel free to do that. You do not have to leave any donations. You do not have to leave any tips. It's not expected, but appreciated. And you can catch my Belongs to the Shadows show program on, if you're watching this on Star Raven Studios Network YouTube page, you can catch some of them there, or you can catch some of them on Cosmos Creative Television. Shout out to that YouTube page. Anyhow, let's continue on. I'm going to be talking about Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. I know that is not a new subject, that is not a new story, that there have been books written about that amazing human being. There have been TV shows, movies, you name it, it's probably been done. But I have always been intrigued and fascinated with the story of Marie Laveau, because I don't think it's just the story. I think that it's the truth, and I have nothing but respect for her. And if any of you ever get the chance to visit her final resting place, please leave her gifts. Be respectful and leave her gifts. That's what I ask. And that's what they ask whenever you go and visit her. Leave her flowers, leave her gifts, leave her trinkets, and be respectful. So, as always, I like to give credit where credit is due. So, I'm going to be reading all this from different websites, and I will try to link them below so that you can go and explore those websites for yourself, because I'm not going to tell you everything that's on the page. And this first one is from hauntedhistorytours.com. They are the #1 rated haunted history tour company in New Orleans. So you can actually book a tour with them. Not sponsored by them, by the way, but we will link them below so that if you're ever in New Orleans, then you can book a tour with them, and that would be incredible. I have been to New Orleans. I did some mission work there with my university, and we actually worked at Project Lazarus and worked with the residents there and cleaned up the fountains and did yard work. And it was really fun because I got to meet some very interesting human beings there. And One of them actually worked at the House of Blues and got me and a couple of my friends tickets to go see the Vines. So that was pretty cool. And that courtyard at Project Lazarus was actually donated by Anne Rice and Rosie O'Donnell. And I always thought that was awesome that they did that. So shout out. Anyhow, Marie Laveau is known as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. She is legendary. She is legendary because of this and remains one of the most enigmatic and influential figures in American folklore. She was said to be a powerful practitioner of voodoo and a devout Catholic, as well as a shrewd businesswoman. She ruled the spiritual landscape in New Orleans in the 19th century. Her life and legacy was said to continue on, and it continues to captivate historians, spiritualists, and tourists who visit her rumored final resting place in St. Louis Cemetery Number 1. So I always thought that was interesting. You might hear me take a drink of my soda. Sippy. A little ASMR for you. My throat is dry. I live in Georgia, and the pollen is horrible. Let me tell you, it is horrible. Anyways, I always thought that was interesting that her final resting place is said to be in St. Louis, Missouri, because you would think that would be in New Orleans. But it's said to be in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm from the St. Louis, Missouri area. Maybe that's why I'm so fascinated with anything that has to do with Marie Laveau. Incredible human being. Her early life and background. So Marie Laveau was born around 1801 in New Orleans, Louisiana, to a Creole mother and a free man of color. As a mixed-race woman in the town of Antebellum, Louisiana, she was part of a unique societal class that had more freedom than enslaved African Americans, but fewer rights than white citizens. Her lineage blended African American, Native American, and French influences. This shaped her spiritual practices. Little is known about her early years, but she was raised in the Catholic faith, a tradition that was later incorporated into her voodoo rituals. She married a man by the name of Jacques Paris, a Haitian immigrant in 1819, but he mysteriously disappeared or died soon after. This led to her being known as the Widow Paris. She later entered into a common law marriage with Christophe Galapian, which with whom she had several children. The rise of the Voodoo Queen. By the 1820s, Marie Laveau had established herself as a powerful voodoo practitioner, the Voodoo Queen. At the time, voodoo was a blend of African spiritual traditions, Catholicism, and indigenous beliefs. It was both feared and respected. Laveau rose to prominence by combining religious devotion with practical magic. She used charms, potions, and rituals to help people with love, business, and legal matters. So see, she's not bad. She wasn't a bad person. She was helpful. Her influence extended beyond the voodoo community. She worked as a hairdresser, catering to the wealthy white elite of New Orleans, which gave her access to their secrets. It is said that she used this knowledge to strengthen her power, offering spiritual guidance as well as remedies tailored to the needs of both the rich and poor. One of the most famous rituals that she did took place at Congo Square, where enslaved and free people of color gathered on Sundays. Laveau would lead large ceremonies featuring drumming, dancing, and spirit possession. These events reinforced her reputation as the supreme voodoo queen, the supreme voodoo authority in New Orleans. The myths and legends of Marie Laveau. Her legend grew over time, and many stories blur the line between reality and myth. Some say she could be in two places at once, while others claim she lived for over a century. There were even some rumors that she was a shapeshifter or possessed supernatural powers. One of the most persistent legends, one of the most common legends, that her spirit remains active in New Orleans. I can believe that. There are a lot of spirits that are still in New Orleans. Trust me, I've been there and I've walked the streets at night. Visitors to her tomb often leave offerings. Like I said earlier, you need to leave gifts. You need to be respectful. They leave gifts of like candles, coins, or X marks, hoping to gain her favor. Many claim to have seen her ghost wandering the French Quarter or felt her presence during voodoo rituals. Her legacy. Marie Laveau passed away in 1881, but her influence endures. Her daughter, also named Marie Laveau, like I said, legend continued, reportedly continued her mother's work through historical records, suggests that the legend of the second Marie Laveau may have been an exaggeration. Today, her name is synonymous with New Orleans voodoo. Yeah, most definitely. She has been depicted in literature, music, and film, inspiring characters in American Horror Story. That's what I was thinking of when I was talking about movies. Novels and folklore. The blend of mysticism, empowerment, and cultural resilience that she represented continues to resonate. Marie Laveau was more than just a voodoo priestess. She was a symbol of spiritual power, racial resilience, and female authority. In a time when those such influences were very rare. Whether viewed as a saint, a sorceress, or a savvy leader, she remains as an unforgettable figure in American history. Like I said, I have nothing but respect for Marie Laveau. I've always been fascinated by her and history about her because, like, I think that she was a remarkable human being. So, as I was saying, I completely and totally respect Marie Laveau. I thought that she was an incredible woman. I think that she was an incredible woman and especially an incredible human being for her time era. She was ahead of her time. Okay, so this next bit I get from Britannica. You can find it on Britannica.com, biography of Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau, the American Voodoo Queen. It is said that she was born in 1801, in New Orleans, Louisiana. But she passed away on June 15th of 1881, New Orleans. She was the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Laveau's powers reportedly included healing the sick, extending altruistic gifts to the poor, and overseeing spiritual rites. Her life in New Orleans, there has been some confusion regarding Laveau's year of birth. Some documents indicated that she was born in 1794, while other research supports the idea or the facts that she might have been born in 1801. Who knows? She is said to have been born to an African woman named Marguerite d'Arcantel and to Charles Laveau. Marie Laveau ended up marrying a Creole man from Saint Dominique, which is known as Haiti now, present time, named Jacques Paris. He reportedly disappeared and was later found deceased. Upon this disappearance, Laveau began referring to herself as the Widow Paris. After the reported demise of her husband, Laveau started a relationship with a gentleman by the name of Jean-Louis Christopher Dumini de Galpin. Hopefully I said that right. That is a long name. Together they had several children, some of whom were the victims of the horrible outbreak of yellow fever that had plagued New Orleans due to the city's poor drainage system. Although Laveau was a committed mother and wife, much of her focus as well as priority and caretaking was extended to her spiritual children and in general the community. Laveau became a hairdresser. Us moms do what we need to do to support our family. I have taken many jobs that I was not interested in having to support my family. The love of a mother. What we do for our family. I respect that. She became a hairdresser to create economic stability for her and her family. Through interaction with her Black clients, who were house servants, she was exposed to personal information, and this personal information was about her wealthy white clients, who often sought her counsel. Laveau used this information to her advantage to be informed and counsel to the people who sought advice from her concerning their personal affairs. Many wealthy and political affluent individuals, both white and Black, paid Laveau for personal advice, as well as intervention in some situations and protection against any evil energy that might have been placed against them. Voodoo in New Orleans. Voodoo was a religious system and is a religious system that was derived from the spiritual practices from Dahomey, the historic Western town, or Western African kingdom, I should say, located in what is now Benin. Voodoo is actually a Fon word that means spirit or deity. Voodoo was transported to the United States during the transatlantic slave trade. The African religion was brought to New Orleans first by the initial group of enslaved Africans from West Africa. After the revolution in Saint Dominique, 1791 through 1804, another wave of African people brought their religion to New Orleans. The Voodoo tradition was then strengthened and reinforced by the free and enslaved African community of New Orleans. It is important to note that the practice of Voodoo in New Orleans is not the purest manifestation of Voodoo or of this religion. It was known in Dahomey. Also, it is not the same religious system that is observed in Haiti. So keep note of that. It's not the same. There are two different religions. Saint Dominique was isolated, and their religious as well as cultural practices were maintained and sustained. However, In New Orleans, the Voodooists had to adhere to strict European laws, codes, and oppression associated with enslavement. Voodoo was often under a lot of scrutiny by the public, officials, and the law. Nevertheless, Voodoo held a strong presence in New Orleans throughout the centuries. It still holds a strong presence there. And the Voodoo ceremonies as well as activities took place at various sites around the city. Voodoo in New Orleans consisted of root work and gris or juju. People would seek out conjurers or other spiritualists for spiritual intervention, as well as protection in their daily affairs. These favors ranged anywhere from love, conjuring love, to political influence. Although most workers used their powers for positive forces, there were some who did not. Shame on them. It was probably the work of this small percentage of people that was sensationalized by people outside of the religion. This aspect of the religion became known as hoodoo, and it is often the basis for misconception that the public has about voodoo. So, see, do your research, people. You do not want to mess with anything like this unless you understand it, because you could get harmed, and there are a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people hear the word voodoo and they automatically think evil. Hopefully me telling you about Marie Laveau and the history of voodoo today will help you understand it a little bit better. The Voodoo Queen. Said by some to be the granddaughter of a powerful priestess in Saint Dominique, Laveau reportedly had a familial background in African spirituality. She was drawn to religion after the death of her mother. She underwent the tutelage of Dr. John Bayou as a well-known Senegalese conjurer, root worker. I can't pronounce that. I apologize. Infamous for mispronouncing things. She did not take long to dominate the culture and society of voodoo in New Orleans. As a queen for several decades, Laveau was mother to many. People had sought her advice for marital affairs, domestic disputes, judicial issues, childbearing issues, finance, health, as well as good luck. Laveau would in turn counsel her practitioners by supplying them with advice as well as protective spiritual objects such as candles, powder, an assortment of other items mixed together to create a gris. As Queen Laveau predominantly orchestrated rituals at three main sites: her home on St. Anne Street, Congo Square, and Lake, here we go, Pontchartrain. Yes, gold star for Jamie because I pronounced it right. Oh, goodness. Infamous for mispronouncing things. It's awful. It's awful. At her home in St. Anne Street, however, Laveau would converse with clients who would meet with her regarding any issues that they were having. Her background, she would also have ceremonies that conjured the spirit of the great zombie, the Didi Dambala, who would manifest through a snake. Wow. The second major ritualistic space, Congo Square, was a public square that was set aside by city officials as a gathering space for both enslaved and free African people. Laveau would gather her followers there on Sundays to dance and worship. No major ceremonies would take place there, but it was a place of spiritual gathering and rejuvenation. and as free citizens, the last place of significance that was presided over by Laveau. St. John's I'm sorry, let me rewind. I'm stuttering. The last place of significance that was presided over by Laveau was Bayou St. John's, which was located on the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. It was here that the major ceremonies took place among the initiated in their religion. Laveau would often be accompanied by her king in quotation marks, or a second-ranking male officiate. Singing, dancing, drumming, as well as spirit possession would occur in these gatherings. Curious white people would often sneak into the woods to, sneak a peek to witness these ceremonies. For sensationalism, they would often report extreme tales of what they had witnessed. Of course, there's always those nosy people. I can't be judgmental because I would probably have been one of those nosy people in the woods. Rivals of Marie Laveau. There would often be rivalries over who should rule the voodoo system in New Orleans. Before Laveau took reign, there were two women who preceded her as queen. The first was Sainte Deity, who ruled over several years before she was usurped by Marie Salopi, who introduced Laveau to the intricacies of the religion. Intricacies of the religion. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Blah, blah, blah. It's stuttering over my words again. The intricacies. There we go. Of the religion. Bear with me, I'll get it right eventually. And provided her with her fundamental tutelage. After taking a prominent stance as the voodoo queen, Laveau reigned unchallenged until 1850, when another Creole woman named Rosalie attempted to challenge Laveau's position. To create an aura of fear and awe, Rosalie placed a huge life-size wooden doll in her yard that was said to have been imported from Africa. The statue was covered with beads and intricate carvings when people in the voodoo community began expressing fear and respect for Rosalie because of the doll. Oh, wow. Laveau stole the statue. She was taken to court by Rosalie, but used her persuasive powers to influence to have the doll permanently removed. There were several other root workers and voodooists who gathered mild attention during Laveau's reign. Wow. That's interesting. That is very, very interesting. And like I always say, I am reading these with you, to you, for the first time. So I'm hearing about this as you're listening. That's probably why I mispronounce things all the time. I really need to work on that. But then you guys wouldn't get a laugh when I mispronounce something. So it is what it is. It's organic. Survival of voodoo. During the later years of her life, Laveau had to move her practices across the Mississippi River to the area of New Orleans known as Algiers. Algiers was the first point of arrival for the enslaved African people in New Orleans, and it also was the birthplace of voodoo in New Orleans. After Laveau's death in 1881, voodoo in New Orleans lost a great deal of its adherents. As more people began assimilating economically and socially, the need to depend on the ancient rites as well as traditions of the old-time religion decreased. Voodoo began taking on new forms, becoming incorporated into other religions. Look, here's the St. Louis part. Laveau was buried in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. Each year, thousands of visitors flock to her tomb and adorn her plot with spiritual regalia, candles, as well as money, flowers, and assorted personal items. So yeah, let's see what else there is. It goes on to tell you more about like the New Orleans massacre of 1866, and then it tells you about voodoo. So if you all want to learn more about that, I will tell you a little bit about voodoo just because I want you all to understand what voodoo is. So I'll tell you a little bit of this insert here. Voodoo, which is spelled on here Vodou, which is how it's spelled, the Haitian religion of voodoo. It was a traditional, and it is a traditional Afro-Haitian religion. It represents a syncretism of the West African Vodun religion, Roman Catholicism by the descendants of Domine Congo Yoruba, and other ethnic groups who had been enslaved and transported to colonial Saint Dominique, known as Haiti. Known as Haiti now, present day. The word voodoo means spirit or deity, like I told you earlier, in the Fon language of African kingdom of Dahomey, now Benin, Benin, Benin. Voodoo is a worldview encompassing philosophy, medicine, justice, as well as religion. Its fundamental principle is that everything is spirit. Humans are spirits who inhabit the visible world. The unseen world is populated by Iwa spirits and mysteries. So it goes on to explain more, and then it starts telling you a little bit about the Christian Bible. If you want to read more about it, I am definitely going to link this below. I'm not going to read all of it for you, but just know that voodoo is not evil like, a lot of people think when they hear the word voodoo. Do your research. Don't judge before you know the whole story. That's what I always say. I like to do my research. I like to find out for myself what the story is. I like to discover it for myself, what it is. I don't like to pass judgment. And I do plan on doing more about Marie Laveau. Like I said in the beginning of this, I really wanted to film on location. I'm from the St. Louis, Missouri area. A lot of my family is from that area. And I don't remember if I had actually seen Marie Laveau's final resting place. I might have when I was a child and just did not know the significance of it. Might explain why I'm so fascinated by the story of Marie Laveau. I just think that she was an incredible human being that was way ahead of her time, like I said earlier. And, I just think that religious history dealing with witchcraft, voodoo, all of that is interesting. It's fascinating because it is a significant part of our history. Marie Laveau is a huge part of our history, a huge part of New Orleans history. And I think it's important to research our history, whether it's haunted history or not. I find it to be fascinating. I love going to old cemeteries and exploring and seeing the names on the headstones. I like seeing the different shaped headstones. I've said it before on some of my Belongs to the Shadows episodes, like TV show episodes, in the past, that I live in Northwest Georgia, and we have a cemetery here. Gosh, I can't pronounce things. Goodness gravy. We have a cemetery here that's called Myrtle Hill, and it's a very historic cemetery. There is said to be a witch buried there, and there's this whole story about her, which I plan on telling again in the future, because I want to cover Myrtle Hill a little bit better than what I did before. But there is a statue of an angel that ever since I moved to Northwest Georgia has drawn my attention. I don't know what it is about this angel statue, because there are numerous angel statues in the cemetery, and I have seen numerous angel statues in cemeteries throughout my lifetime, but this particular angel statue keeps drawing my attention. I will try to put a picture that I have taken of this particular statue in this broadcast somewhere so that you can see it. I really want to do research on this statue and see what the story is behind this statue. I have tried to do research on this statue before, and located near the statue, you go down some steps, there's an old fountain that's no longer running, and it draws my attention too. I'll put that photo up as well. But my camera equipment messes up every single time I go down in that area. So, yeah, there is a story there. There is a story to be told there. And that angel statue, I gravitate toward it every single time. Anyhow, thank you all for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a kick out of me mispronouncing things. No disrespect for mispronouncing names. I apologize. I'm just not good at pronouncing some of the names. Anyhow, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Belongs to the Shadows. I hope I did Marie Laveau's story justice. And until next time, stay creepy.